What a fucking team we have. I want to thank our team personally. I want to, we got our team. I want to thank Eddie, manning the show, Malcolm for creating a lot of trouble on the show, Misha. She's just funny. That's all there is to it. She's funny. And Elizabeth, thank you so much. We've got a really good team. Mike McCrae was on Wednesday. Of course, I love him. He just makes me giggle so much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. You know, Anya and I get together every Fancy Vagina Friday. We try. I know, right? It's my handle. And I want to talk about certain things. And so we've got a couple topics for you today. And Anya Parampil. Anya is a journalist based in Washington, D.C. and a contributor of The Gray Zone. She has produced and reported several documentaries, including on-the-ground reports from the Korean Peninsula, Palestine, Venezuela, and Honduras. And now, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Anya Parampil. Bing.
Hi, Stef.
Oh my God, Anya, it's good to see you. I did really have such a great time seeing you and Max in person. You know, it's such a strange relationship meeting people on Zoom, and then we finally meet them in person. It was really fun.
It was funny, especially as I said then, because Max and Jimmy are talking all the time, it seems.
Right? They are. They're
spend hours together on Fridays and Wednesdays. Mondays.
I know. All right. So here's my first story. Let me read it to you. Okay. Let's see. Moving. All right. We have Madeleine Albright's funeral buried her legacy of war making and extraordinary deceit. Let's hear a clip from what Joe Biden had to say.
In the 20th and 21st century, freedom had no greater champion than Madeleine Albright. She always had a knack for explaining to the American people why it mattered to them that people everywhere in the world were struggling to breathe free. She made sure that young women knew they belonged at every single table having to do with national security, without exception. She could go toe-to-toe with the toughest dictators, then turn around and literally teach a fellow ambassador how to do the Macarena on the floor of the UN Security Council. Y'all think I'm kidding.
That's
I'm
so
not
funny.
kidding. She thought it was too difficult to teach me how to dance, though. She was right. May her memory continue.
Oh, shoot. Her memory continues, but his doesn't. All right, Anya, what did you know, like, I know the Gray Zone covered this, you know, like this tribute to Madeleine Albright. Oh, I saw a little bit of Hillary Clinton paying tribute to her. She had like a 15-minute speech, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't play it. I just couldn't play it. Madeleine Albright, anything you want to say about Maddie?
Well, just hats off to Sam Husseini, who wrote that article, which you showed at the beginning of this segment. He wrote that originally for his Substack. We republished it at the Gray Zone. But it's interesting because the timing of her death and everything that we're dealing with right now in terms of escalation with Russia, it kind of fits together because this is really her legacy that we're dealing with right now. Something Sam noted in his piece is that even Putin's rise within Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union was brought about partially by the war in Yugoslavia, which was known as Albrights War. This is a war that she pushed. President Clinton breaking with domestic law, bombing Yugoslavia without congressional approval, breaking international law. There was no UN resolution passed, which gave the green light for this campaign. And the Clinton administration, with Albright in the driver's seat, really oversaw the destruction of one of the greatest country projects of the previous century, Yugoslavia, and broke it down into a bunch of little countries that NATO could try to control and push around. And it's that type of policy in throughout Europe that has led to this confrontation right now between Russia and Ukraine, which of course is really a proxy war between NATO and Russia. It's this policy that Madeleine Albright in the 90s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, people like her were were the ones who thought they were inheriting a world with only one power, that only now with the collapse of the Soviet Union, now the United States would control history, and that it could act as an abusive imperial power with no consequences, no repercussions. And we're seeing now it didn't work out the way she planned. Now Russia is actually going up against the United States in a way that a lot of people didn't expect, economically and militarily. And the point that I'll add is that she came to the United States. It's interesting. She came here because her father was, through a CIA project, coming to teach in the United States. They were brought from the Czech Republic in order for him to do that, to teach, I believe, some international diplomacy course at one of the big universities. And when she finally became a student, one of her mentors, her main mentor, was Zbigniew Brzezinski, the father of Mika Brzezinski, currently the host at MSNBC, but also the architect of the train and equip program in Afghanistan to weaken the Soviet Union. Someone who, like Madeleine Albright, represented a generation of anti-communist, anti-Soviet immigrants who came from Europe and then used their influence in the United States to wage this perpetual war against the Soviet Union, use the power in the military of the United States to essentially carry out the policies, revenge as they saw it, for what they stood for back home, which again was anti-communism and anti-Soviet militarism. And we're still dealing with the consequences of them today. Of course, we could talk more about Iraq. That's another.
Oh, yes. Let me play 2 more clips for you. All right. And I just want to say, everything that you described about Madeleine Albright, she just sounds like such a powerhouse. She's like a
boss lady.
Right. She's a feminist on steroids. Just loving it. All right. Here we go. Next clip. This is a young man is asking her a question. So here we go. Let's go with this clip.
What do you have to say about dictators of countries like Indonesia, who we sell weapons to, yet they are slaughtering people in East Timor? What do you have to say about Israel, who is slaughtering Palestinians, who impose martial law? What do you have to say about that? Those are our allies. Why do we sell weapons to these countries? Why do we support them? Why do we bomb Iraq when it commits similar problems?
There are various examples of things that are not right in this world, and the United States is trying. I really am surprised that people feel that it is necessary to defend the rights of Saddam Hussein, when what we ought to be thinking about is how to make sure that he does not use weapons of mass destruction.
I'd like to.
Who are shouting? Just a moment.
I'm not defending them in the least. What I am saying is that there needs to be consistent application of U.S. foreign policy. We cannot support people who are committing the same violations because they are political allies. That is not acceptable. We cannot violate UN resolutions when it is convenient to us. You're not answering my question, Madam Albright.
I like the way she was able to straight face that right now. Had you seen that clip before, Anya?
No, I had never seen that clip. Good for that student, whoever he is.
Right. I when I've watched journalists, when I've watched, the Gray Zone, go and ask people or challenge people in public, challenge a politician in public. A lot of times I'm finding that people are like booing the journalist for being so strong with and adamant when asking a question. And it's like, oh my God, what happened to people where they're not challenging these public officials, that they just feel like, oh, it's okay. They know what they're doing. Just shut up and go along with the war. So when I see somebody, standing alone at a microphone, speaking truth to power, it is inspiring.
Yeah, and he followed up and he said, "You're not answering my question," which was pretty cool.
Yes, and a lot of times people don't recall to say that. They don't remember, like, just answer the question. Here's the last clip that I'm going to show you on Madeleine Albright from 60 Minutes.
The classic.
Yes, the classic.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
I'm going to play it one more time.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
You know, every time I see that, I can't stomach it. You know, I just don't understand. That's the best answer that she could come up with, and she stuck with it. No, have you noticed there's never an apology? She never provided any apology, except she just, you know, won over like fans that were too stupid to understand how nefarious Madeleine Albright is. I won't even mention who the person is that grovels to Madeleine Albright. Last comment on Madeleine Albright.
It's interesting because Sam Husseini writes about in his article at Substack how he actually questioned her about that statement she made in 1996, a few months after she made it, and she claimed that she didn't remember saying it. So I suppose that suggests she was ashamed of it soon after making the comment. But the last thing I'll say is that her, well, being the first woman first lady, the first female woman secretary of state, and overseeing the Yugoslavia war, the Iraq war, she really obviously set the path, paved the way for individuals such as Barack Obama, the first Black president, or Hillary Clinton coming in as Secretary of State under Obama, these other identitarian pioneers who end up causing death and destruction because they ultimately act as tools of the same people that drive other administrations, but then they're so weak that they end up just giving in sometimes more intensely than other figures might.
So I just want to give this closing, observation. I went to a wedding recently, and I've been to a couple friends' birthday parties, and every time I go, they have a playlist, of their favorite songs that they, that they have. I even got like a CD from a friend's wedding, and so every time I listen to it, I can remember. And I was thinking, oh my God, I need a playlist for my own funeral. Right? My first song was going to be Etta James, At Last. Right? I thought that was a good one. But I was thinking if Madeleine Albright, if she had a playlist, I picked one song for her, and it was from, I believe, Leonard Cohen, and it's called Masters of War. And I'm just going to read a little bit from you. Come, you masters of war. Dylan, thank you. Come, you masters of war, you that build the big guns, you that build the death planes, you that build all the bombs, you that hide behind the walls, you that hide behind the desks. I just want you to know I can see through your mask. All right, you got to check out that song. You got to check Masters of War. You that never done nothing but build, destroy. You play with my world like it's your little toy. You put a gun in my hand and you hide from my eyes, and you turn and run farther when the fast bullets fly. All right, here we go.
For Leonard Cohen, listen to Everybody Knows.
Okay. Right?
But I'm questioning myself. It's definitely
No, I think you're right. All right, here we go. Next story. Oh my God. Twitter's most followed user, Barack Obama, loses hundreds of thousands of followers after Elon Musk news. All right, now people are leaving Twitter at an alarming rates following the news that billionaire Elon Musk has now acquired the company. All right, you're telling me that everybody, the 300,000 people who follow Barack Obama are like, oh, God damn Elon Musk, I'm not going to be on Twitter. Well, I actually think, let's watch this, because I think this is a reason why 300,000 people decided to check out on Obama.
All we see is a constant feed of content where useful, factual information and happy diversions and cat videos flow alongside lies, conspiracy theories, junk science, quackery, and over time we lose our capacity to distinguish between fact, opinion, and wholesale fiction.
I think his statement at Stanford, I think he continued to celebrate the idea of common sense censorship, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you really falling for the idea that, Anya, are you falling for the idea that everybody fled Twitter, 300,000 people fled Twitter right now?
If they did, good riddance. They're certainly the kind of people that I'm not going to miss them. But the other thing that could have happened is that, Twitter is always removing bots accounts. And so sometimes some users have a lot of bot followers. I'm always amazed also because it happens to people from our political persuasion. Often you see people saying like, I just lost 2,000 followers in the last hour, and there's some way that they're taken down. I'm always just like, how are you paying attention to your followers that closely where I wouldn't even notice. But I guess I'm not so hot on Twitter.
Well, I know, like I every so often I figure out some mechanism on Twitter. I'm like, oh, that person's following me or whatever. But yeah, and still it does make me laugh. The whole phrase followers. It just, it's such a weird phrase. Why not just sheep? Okay. Last story. Ministry of Truth trends on Twitter after government unveils new disinformation governance board. The revelation that the government had created a new board to fight disinformation prompted a slew of 1984 comparisons. And this came out on Fee Stories that I was reading. On Wednesday, news broke Department of Homeland Security, DHS, a department that didn't exist 20 years ago, but today spends $52 billion annually, had created a new disinformation governance board. That is something to think about. It wasn't around 20 years ago, but, a couple wars later. The news comes just after days Twitter accepted Tesla's founder Elon Musk offers to buy Twitter for $44 billion, a move that critics of the deal claimed could unleash disinformation. Musk has been vocal in his support for free speech. That's gotta stop. DHS declined to be interviewed by the Associated Press, but issued a statement after news broke of the development. The spread of disinformation can affect border security, American safety during disasters, and public trust in our democratic institutions, DHS said. I can't believe they didn't mention weapons of mass destruction somehow. All right, Jonathan Turley, he came out and said Biden's new disinformation governance board is telling replacement for the corporate censorship system. Now Clinton is looking to the Europeans to censor social media, while Biden is turning to a type of ministry of truth. And then Dan Sanchez says Elon Musk buys Twitter to save free speech, and days later, President Biden announces a ministry of truth. It's like we're living through an Ayn Rand, George Orwell novel mashup. And finally, anything you want to add to this, Anya, right now about this whole thing?
I'll listen to your last.
All right, here's the last clip. This is God damn this woman. She just drives everybody crazy. So here we go.
How do you feel about the Ministry of Truth?
This is the kind of thing that you see in dictatorships, this Ministry of Truth, this Department of Propaganda that the Biden administration has just stood up. And the reason why you see this in dictatorships is because they're afraid of us. They're afraid of the people. They're afraid that we might actually think for ourselves. And so now they've created this body that will do two things. Number one, it'll use taxpayer dollars to work through the mainstream media and flood the airwaves with whatever their propaganda narrative is that they're pushing at any given time, and try to drown out anyone with alternate views. And number two, they will silence dissenting voices through intimidation.
right,
I think the thing to recognize with this, just real quick, is that this isn't something new. This is something that they have already been doing, that's happening right now. The only difference is they're formalizing it, making it official, which, if there's a silver lining in this, it is they're revealing exactly who they are and why they're doing it, what they're trying to accomplish. And it allows us, the American people, to stand up and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to let you get away with this crap. We will take a stand. We will reject it. And we will throw out of office those who are continuing to push and propagate this undemocratic anti-free speech mission.
Ooh, uncomfortable.
Kooky.
Anya?
Kooky. No.
Truthy.
I mean, she nailed it, but I was just thinking, Steph, you know, I live in a part of DC it's in the process of really becoming gentrified. And one of the drivers of this gentrification is the expansion of the Department of Homeland Security.
Really?
Here in DC. Yeah, DHS, not necessarily for this agency, but they've been building offices in Southeast DC where I live. And I should have known years ago when this was happening that this meant DHS is expanding. What are these powers going to be used for? And I just think that any organization out there that claims to stand for the free speech, freedom of information, and whether it's right or left wing organization should be holding protests outside the Department of Homeland Security. I agree with Tucker Carlson last night when he said this is a red line. This should be a red line for all of us. They cannot have this agency, and it certainly can't be run by Nina Jankowicz. She's absolutely insane, and we should be doing everything we can, and actually I think physically protesting this. I mean, this story it just broke this week, and sometimes it's easy to see things on Twitter and it feels so absurd that all we feel like we can do is laugh about it. But I don't run an organization. If I did, I would be trying to organize people to protest the existence of this agency. Because look, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, shouldn't exist anyway. And it just, through the fact that they manipulated people after 9/11 into being so afraid that they were able to create the DHS. Now they're using it to just create this agency with no democratic oversight, no approval. Congress had no say in its creation. And I just don't think we should let them get away with it.
I agree 100%. No, I agree 98%. I think 2% they should get away with it. You know, it's just like, I just really can't believe that the billions and billions of dollars that are being thrown away on stuff that nobody ever ran on. I don't recall any candidate running on, we've got to increase our budget for Homeland Security. We have to increase our budget for more censorship. I don't see any of that. But suddenly now this is all happening. And what did she say, that we got to throw these politicians out?
Yeah. Gosh,
you know, I would like to imprison them, what they've done to our country and how they continue to divide our country. And
how is it legal? I mean, I would like to see some legal challenge to the creation of this agency as well. Like, the people who are involved in making this happen need to be held accountable.
Yeah. And, you know, I would start first with the people that got us into Iraq war, for them to be charged with war crimes. I'd like to go back 20 years and have those people held accountable, and we'll just work our way forward at that point.
You have a national reckoning.
You know, and in the meantime, we all can't stop thinking about what Julian Assange has gone through. We can't stop talking about him and his struggle and what his family is going through, and that they're going to extradite him to the United States. And what about his safety and how he's being made an example to squelch any kind of dissent here in journalism. So I mean, really, we're seeing this person tortured in public. And what is that doing to our country? This is awful. It's awful what they're doing, and we still continue to have plenty of money for war. It doesn't matter if we have somebody like Madeleine Albright saying, let's play that clip again.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Yeah, the price was worth it. The price was worth it. What kind of financial gains did the United States claim? You know, how big has the military-industrial complex continued to grow? So, Anya, Parampil, anything else that you want to say at the end of our week together?
Just that if and when they do extradite Julian Assange to D.C., we will be ready to protest with all of our might.
Yes, and in support of his safety and health. All right, Anya, until next week, thank you so much for stopping by with Stef on our super fancy Vagina Fridays.
We're doing live stand-up shows in Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Des Moines, Omaha, Kansas City, Las Vegas, all over the country. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for tickets. And single tickets now available at all venues. So if you tried to buy one before and you couldn't, single tickets are now available. Plus, while you're at jimmydorcomedy.com, why don't you become a premium member? Sign up to our mailing list so when they cancel us, we can still stay in touch.